Hey guys, before we begin, lock your doors, look around, and make sure you're safe. If you enjoy stories like this, hit like, tap, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us where you're listening from. Now, let's begin. The address provided was 1415-55 South Beaver Creek Road, number 2017. The same address as Ashley. The daughter's name was Miranda. No one had spoken to her recently. Ashley, it was believed, had run away. The FBI, however, was investigating both cases, as if they were connected. This needed to be shared. Crime in many ways reflects the duality of human nature. Sometimes uncovering the truth behind a crime means peeling back layers of deceit and betrayal. The person responsible is not always who is initially suspected. Often it's someone completely unexpected. This case is no exception. It's a story about 12-year-old Ashley Pond, who vanished without a trace in early January of 2002 from Oregon City. Then adding to the horror, her 13-year-old classmate Miranda Gaddis disappeared 2 months later in early March. The events that followed were unimaginable. Families were torn apart, communities lived in fear, and investigators were baffled by the web of lies. The investigation was a roller coaster of hope and despair, disbelief and horror. The charming city of Oregon City, nestled in the Pacific Northwest, boasts stunning natural beauty and a rich history. From the municipal elevator to the McLaughlin House, it offers much to explore. Yet this picturesque setting also witnessed the tragic deaths of 2 young girls in 2002. It began on a winter morning in early January of 2002. 12-year-old Ashley Pond was late for the school bus. Waking to her younger sister's voice, she ate a quick breakfast just after 8 in the morning. Wearing Tommy Hilfiger jeans, a spaghetti-strap shirt, and a sweatshirt, she waved goodbye to her mother and hurried out the door. She had a dance class after school, but neither school nor dance class would ever see her again. That morning, her mother, Lori, wasn't concerned about Ashley walking alone. The bus stop was just minutes from their apartment. Lori didn't know that this would be the last time she would see her daughter. Ashley never boarded the bus and never reached Gardner Middle School. She simply disappeared. As the day wore on, Lori waited for Ashley's call after dance class. When the call didn't come, panic set in. She called the school and dance studio, only to learn Ashley hadn't been there. Desperate, she called friends but found no trace of her daughter. Finally, she called 911. Officers from the Oregon City Police Department arrived at Lori's apartment and began their investigation. While a search was immediately initiated, the police initially believed Ashley had run away and would return home soon. News of Ashley's disappearance spread rapidly throughout Oregon City, becoming the dominant topic of conversation. Rumors circulated that she had run away, but there were no clues to her whereabouts. When police searched Ashley's room, all her belongings were present. It seemed highly unlikely a 12-year-old would leave without taking anything of value. This strengthened the fear that something terrible had happened. Ashley's family distributed missing person flyers each moment, feeling like an eternity as they desperately searched for their loved one. Investigators worked tirelessly, retracing Ashley's last known steps. Her final confirmed location was the apartment complex. Whether she ever reached the bus stop remained unknown. After interviewing children on the school bus, police concluded her disappearance occurred sometime between leaving her apartment and reaching the bus stop. The bus stop was uphill behind the complex, with a wooded area often used by children as a shortcut. Investigators couldn't determine if Ashley had used the shortcut that day. Despite the lack of concrete leads, after a few days, the possibility of kidnapping and foul play was seriously considered. With few leads, investigators turned their attention to Ashley's closest relationships. Lori Pond, Ashley's mother, was born in March of 1989. Lori was 16 and unmarried when Ashley was born. Soon after, she married David Pond, and more children followed. Ashley became a loving and protective older sister, particularly to Brianna, her younger sister. Ashley was described as laid-back and fun-loving, easily making friends at Gardner Middle School. She was also a dedicated member of the dance team. The first few years of Ashley's life were typical. However, around the ages of 9 or 10, her parents' messy divorce significantly impacted her. Of all Lori's children, Ashley was affected the most. While seeking to reduce child support payments, David Pond uncovered a long-buried secret. A paternity test revealed that David Pond, the only father Ashley had ever known, was not her biological father. Her biological father was a man named Wesley Roatker Jr. This revelation was understandably difficult for Ashley, but she tried to accept the truth. She began regular weekend visits with Wesley to make up for lost time. Sadly, these visits didn't last long. Near the end of 2000, Ashley confided in her mother and sister that Wesley was abusing her, with the last incident occurring on Christmas Eve of 2000. In early January of 2001, Wesley Roatker was indicted on 40 counts of a serious crime. With his lawyer, he portrayed Ashley as a troubled liar. Her recantation of her statements weakened her credibility. Ultimately, Wesley pleaded no contest to a lesser charge and received only 6 months of probation and a no-contact order in September of 2001. This occurred shortly before Ashley's disappearance. Ashley's mother, Lori, suspected Wesley's involvement and shared her concerns with the authorities. He had both motive and opportunity. Investigators interviewed Wesley at his Portland home, which he shared with his father. Initially, Wesley seemed cooperative, providing background information on his relationship with Ashley. Surprisingly, he admitted to his actions, attributing them to drug addiction and poor choices. He expressed shame and a desire for forgiveness. His remorse might have seemed feigned, but his alibi was strong. He stated he'd had breakfast with his father at a local restaurant that morning, followed by working on an old truck until the afternoon. His father corroborated his story. While investigators temporarily set aside their focus on Wesley Roatker, their attention shifted to another person close to Ashley, her mother, Lori Pond. Investigators uncovered unsettling details about Lori, revealing she had a history of child neglect and struggled with alcohol addiction. From late January of 2001 to early January of 2002, she had several interactions with law enforcement regarding her parenting. Complaints cited her locking her children out of the house, engaging in domestic disputes that endangered her children, and excessive drinking. Police and Department of Human Resources employees frequently visited her apartment. Lori and Ashley had a strained relationship, often marked by intense arguments. Shockingly, the previous summer, Ashley had told friends and teachers that a friend's father had abused her. Her teachers reported this to Oregon DHS, but Lori did not intervene. A report indicated that Ashley and her siblings received minimally adequate care under Lori's supervision. It was perplexing why, despite these issues, Child Protective Services took no action. When questioned, Lori admitted to conflicts with Ashley and their unstable relationship. However, she insisted they had a loving bond. She maintained her initial statement to investigators, showing no inconsistencies. Though investigators found no clear motive, they still wanted Lori to take a polygraph test. After passing, she was cleared as a suspect. Having eliminated Ashley's family and close acquaintances, the investigators had few leads. The Newell Creek apartment complex area had a high number of registered sex offenders. Oregon City Police interviewed nearly all of them, but to no avail. Exhausted leads led the Oregon City Police Department to request assistance from the FBI in late January of 2002. With the FBI's help, the search for Ashley intensified. Ashley's disappearance deeply affected Oregon City. Her school friends were especially heartbroken. On a morning in late January of 2002, Anna Song, a reporter from Katu News, interviewed children at the bus stop where Ashley usually caught the bus. Among them was 13-year-old Miranda Gaddis, Ashley's close friend and neighbor. In a poignant interview, Miranda expressed her concern and considered the possibility of a kidnapping. She also mentioned that Ashley had confided in Miranda's sister about wanting to run away. Although Miranda smiled throughout the interview, her worry was evident. Tragically, Miranda's face would soon reappear on the news, but this time as another missing person. Miranda's life mirrored Ashley's in many ways. They were close in age and looked alike. They lived in the same building, attended the same school, belonged to the same dance team, had similar friend groups, and both had strained relationships with their fathers. Both girls were raised by single mothers who faced their own challenges. Their lives would tragically intertwine once more. Miranda Gaddis was born in mid-November of 1988 in Oregon City to Jason Richard Gaddis and Michelle Duffy. Like Ashley, Miranda had siblings, an older sister Marissa, a younger sister Mariah, and a younger brother Jason. Unlike Ashley, Miranda's parents were married at the time of her birth. However, this didn't prevent Miranda from experiencing the negative influence of her father. In February of 1995, when Miranda was 6, her father, Jason Gaddis, was convicted of kidnapping 2 girls. He received 6 months in prison and 54 years of post-release supervision. This event led to the end of Jason and Michelle's marriage. Michelle later entered a relationship with Brett Edward McKinney, whose own criminal history would later come to light. Miranda and her siblings were briefly placed in foster care before returning to their mother's care. Despite hardships, Miranda enjoyed life and cherished her siblings. Her friends described her as spunky, outgoing, funny, and caring. She loved dancing and dreamed of becoming a model. She also showed a remarkable initiative in warning others about danger, trying to protect them from the harm she had witnessed. Motivated by Miranda's concern for the safety of others, the Gardner Middle School dance team was preparing for a performance in late March of 2002. This performance was to be part of a fundraiser for a reward in Ashley Pond's case, which had been unsolved for almost 2 months. Like many, Miranda let her guard down, unaware that danger lurked nearby. Early March of 2002 began like any other day in Oregon City. The community had largely recovered from the shock of Ashley's disappearance. At Miranda's house, the day started as usual. At 7:30 in the morning, Michelle left for work, assuming Miranda would prepare for school independently. She would never see her daughter again. Around 1:20 in the afternoon, Michelle received a call from her oldest daughter, informing her that Miranda was absent from school and her friends hadn't seen her. Michelle immediately contacted the school and confirmed Miranda's absence. Given Ashley's recent disappearance, Michelle wasted no time in alerting the authorities. The eerie similarities between Miranda's and Ashley's disappearances were immediately apparent to everyone, including the Oregon City Police. This second disappearance sent shockwaves through the town, causing widespread panic among parents. Law enforcement believed the disappearances were connected, possibly committed by the same person. They were racing against time to find the perpetrator and considered the worst possibilities with foul play at the forefront of their minds. The chances of finding the girls alive seemed slim, but investigators were determined to find evidence that could solve the mystery. The town was flooded with local, state, and federal agents, along with their canine units. Large advertisements featuring the girls' faces were placed on billboards to raise awareness. The dance performance, originally planned as a fundraiser for Ashley, became a fundraiser for both girls. Miranda's planned solo performance was given by her older sister. Detectives canvassed the area, stopping cars and interviewing residents. One particular house caught their attention. Detectives visited the home of a 39-year-old man named Ward Weaver. located at the top of the hill near Ashley and Miranda's bus stop at 2507 South Beaver Creek Road. The house, rented for $600 a month, had been Weaver's residence since August of 1997. In 2002, he lived there with his 12-year-old daughter Mallory, his 19-year-old son Francis, and his girlfriend. Mallory attended the same school as Ashley and Miranda and was friends with both. They often spent time together, even after school. Mallory was popular among her friends, partly because her house was a haven for children. Weaver had a large backyard where kids played and enjoyed treats. He often hosted sleepovers, and both Miranda and Ashley frequently spent time at his house. Because Weaver's house was near the bus stop, investigators decided to question him. He seemed friendly and cooperative, admitting that Ashley and Miranda had been to his house, but denying seeing them on the days of their disappearances. He claimed Ashley was a troubled teen who had reason to run away, but offered no explanation for Miranda's disappearance. While not considered a suspect at that time, investigators requested a search of his home. Weaver willingly allowed the search of his house and backyard, but nothing incriminating was found. He provided a time card as an alibi, stating he was at work on both days. With nothing found at Weaver's house, detectives pursued other leads. After interviewing people in the Newell Creek apartment complex, the FBI focused on two men in their 20s, Adam and Scott, who were roommates in the same complex. Investigators learned these men had made offensive comments about Ashley and Miranda in the past. This led them to suspect potential involvement in the girls' kidnappings. To gather more information, undercover, FBI agents attended a prayer service for Ashley and Miranda where Adam and Scott were present. The agents overheard the men discussing the missing girls and expressing a desire to avoid attention. This raised serious concerns, and Adam and Scott were placed under surveillance. A few days later, they were observed attempting to lure a young woman into their car, leading to an intervention by the agents. This incident provided enough cause for a polygraph test, which surprisingly both men passed. Despite hours of questioning and a search of their apartment, no evidence linking them to the missing girls was found. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, with no significant breakthroughs. Just as the case seemed to be stalling, a shocking revelation emerged from an unexpected source. Investigators grasping at straws were exploring even the most tenuous leads, including middle school gossip. What began as gossip would dramatically shift the direction of the investigation and uncover a disturbing truth. Investigators learned that before her disappearance in August of 2001, Ashley had accused Ward Weaver of inappropriate behavior and stopped going to his house. None of her friends, including Weaver's daughter Mallory, believed her. Only Miranda supported Ashley, though reported the accusations had gone nowhere. However, Mallory couldn't let it go. The feud had severely damaged their friendship. Investigators also learned that in the weeks leading up to Miranda's disappearance, she warned friends against going to Weaver's house, suggesting the man was dangerous. This revelation shocked investigators, but it was just the beginning of the twists in this case. Further investigation revealed Ward Weaver had testified in court for Ashley's father, Wesley Rowaker, denying Ashley's accusations and calling her a liar. But was this seemingly upstanding father capable of unspeakable acts? Were the rumors true? Investigators were left with more questions than answers. In early May of 2002, Ward Weaver was asked to take a polygraph test. As expected, he failed. However, aside from the polygraph results, police lacked concrete evidence. The test itself was inadmissible in court, but it significantly impacted the investigation. Ward Weaver, once seen as a helpful neighbor, quickly became the prime suspect. To obtain solid proof, investigators delved into his past. Ward Weaver III was born in early April of 1963 in Humboldt County, California, to Trish and Ward Weaver Jr. In 1967, when Weaver was 4, his father abandoned the family. Weaver and his two sisters remained with their mother. Trish later married Bob Boudreaux, an abusive alcoholic. More sons followed, but the marriage remained unhappy. Weaver exhibited antisocial behavior from a young age, fueled by his explosive temper, mirroring the violent tendencies of the male figures in his life. In 1981, Weaver graduated from Marshall High School in Portland and joined the U.S. Navy Reserve, but was discharged the following year for excessive drinking. During his brief time in the Navy, Weaver met his future wife, Maria Stout. He moved in with his mother and stepfather along with Maria, who soon became pregnant. Their relationship was volatile. In late 1982, Maria gave birth to their son Francis. In mid-1984, Maria and Weaver married and later had a second son, Alex. Their fights continued, leading to Child Protective Services removing the children briefly. During this period, Weaver attempted to reconnect with his biological father, but this led to a dark discovery. His father was on trial for the double murder of an 18-year-old Air Force recruit Robert Radford and his Italian 23-year-old girlfriend Barbara Lavoie. They had been killed near the Mojave Desert and buried in his backyard. His father was sentenced to death in late 1984. Weaver later regretted not being called to testify as a character witness for his father. By mid-1986, Weaver and Maria were living in Fairfield, California with another family. On June 15, 1986, Weaver, after drinking, launched an unprovoked attack on the teenage daughters of the family. He was living with 16-year-old Jennifer and 15-year-old Jocelyn. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison. During this time, he confessed to a probation officer that his biggest fear was becoming like his father. After his release in 1991, Maria gave birth to their fourth child, Mallory. Their marriage continued to deteriorate. In 1993, Maria filed a restraining order, ending their 9-year marriage. By mid-1997, Weaver had started a new relationship with a data entry clerk. With his new girlfriend, son, Francis, and daughter, Mallory, Weaver moved into the rental house on South Beaver Creek Road in Oregon City. While investigators were uncovering his troubled past, Ward Weaver made an unexpected move. In early July of 2002, he invited Anna Song, the Katu News reporter, for an interview. By allowing media access to his home, Weaver hoped to present himself favorably. During the interview, when questioned about his failed polygraph test, he blamed the Oregon police's incompetence. He stated he would no longer cooperate with law enforcement. He openly discussed Ashley's allegations against him. When asked about the missing girls, he insisted Ashley had run away, suggesting both cases were unrelated. Before concluding the interview, he offered a tour of his house. The outside portion of this interview, where Weaver casually strolled on the concrete slab in his backyard, would later prove chillingly significant. Despite the media attention, authorities were at an impasse. They needed evidence, and Weaver's actions put their potential lead at risk. A month later, on August 13, 2002, a distressing 911 call came into the Oregon City Police Department. A woman reported that Ward Weaver had assaulted her. She had managed to escape and call from a nearby convenience store. Police responded to Weaver's house, but he had already fled. A nationwide manhunt ensued. Hours later, police apprehended Weaver, ensuring he couldn't escape or harm anyone else. The investigation into Ashley and Miranda's disappearance wasn't over, however. Authorities were still awaiting a search warrant. Another 911 call, this time from Weaver's son Francis, provided the breakthrough. Francis revealed what his father had confided in him the day before he was prepared to testify against his own father. This statement enabled investigators to obtain the search warrant they had been seeking. Francis, despite the difficult decision of betraying his father, felt it was the right thing to do. He later learned he was not Ward Weaver's biological son, a fact that likely added to his resolve. On August 23, 2002, Oregon City Police, with FBI assistance, began searching Weaver's property. The area was cordoned off to control media access. The search began in the backyard. Cadaver dogs were brought in, and a foul odor was detected, emanating from a shed. Inside the shed, investigators discovered a cardboard box containing human remains. The remains were sent to the medical examiner's office for identification. On Sunday, August 24, 2002, the FBI announced the identification of the remains at a press conference. The remains belonged to Miranda Gaddis. While the discovery brought some closure, the search for Ashley continued. Finding nothing more in the shed, the task force shifted their attention to a suspicious concrete slab in the backyard, the same slab where Weaver had walked during his interview with Anna Song. Breaking through the slab, they found 3 large barrels. One contained another set of human remains, which appeared to have been stored in a freezer at some point. A freezer was subsequently found supporting this theory. The medical examiner confirmed the remains belonged to Ashley Pond. This news was devastating for Ashley's family. Ward Weaver, already in jail, was indicted for the aggravated murders of Ashley and Miranda. These charges carried the death penalty in Oregon. Despite overwhelming evidence, Weaver continued to deny involvement. Oregon City residents were shocked and frightened to learn that the man they had considered a friendly neighbor was capable of such horrific acts. They were eager to learn Weaver's explanation for his actions. In early 2003, Anna Song conducted a jailhouse interview with Weaver. She began by asking if he had killed Ashley and Miranda. He denied it. She then asked how their bodies ended up on his property. He claimed he had no knowledge of Ashley's remains being buried beneath the concrete slab. His demeanor lacked remorse, a stark contrast to the friendly neighbor depicted in the July 2002 interview. He even laughed when reminded of his son's confession. When asked if he had anything to say to the girls' families, he offered a perfunctory apology but insisted he was being wrongly accused. Despite his lawyer's advice, Weaver continued to give interviews to the media, seemingly unaware that his lies were failing to conceal his crimes. In late March of 2003, Weaver's lawyers withdrew from the case due to his refusal to follow their counsel. His new legal team requested a year to prepare for the trial. Unexpectedly, at the beginning of 2004, Weaver began acting erratically, claiming to hear voices. His lawyers requested a mental evaluation. Months later, the judge declared him unfit to stand trial. After further evaluation, he was deemed fit to stand trial in mid-2004. Weaver, now heavily medicated, made a surprising move. He pleaded guilty to avoid the death penalty. Before the plea bargain was accepted, it was presented to the Pond and Gaddis families. Despite their desire for retribution, they chose to avoid the emotional toll of a lengthy trial. On September 22, 2004, Ward Weaver pleaded guilty to aggravated murder. The judge delivered a powerful statement about the magnitude of Weaver's crimes and the evil they represented. Weaver received a life sentence without parole. The plea bargain prevented the families from fully understanding the circumstances of the girls' deaths. In 2009, Miranda's younger sister Mariah met Weaver in prison, seeking answers and closure. Despite the official conclusion of the case, Weaver's legacy of evil extended beyond his own actions. In 2016, Weaver's stepson Francis received a life sentence for his involvement in a 2014 drug-related murder in Grants Pass. 3 generations of the Weaver family were now behind bars. Weaver's house was demolished, leaving behind only vacant land. Lori and Michelle left Oregon City, carrying the knowledge that their daughters' lives were taken by a man they had once trusted. The events left a lasting impact on the town and served as a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceptive. The story shifts to Soham, a small market town in Cambridgeshire, England. Known for its quaint architecture and rural setting, Soham was idyllic until the murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman. Both girls were born and raised in Soham, becoming inseparable friends at the age of 4. They attended St. Andrews Primary School and were described as more like sisters than friends. Holly Marie Wells was born in early October of 1991 to Nicola and Kevin Wells. She had a younger brother, Oliver. Friends and family described Holly as having a lovely nature. Jessica Amy Chapman was born in early September of 1991 to Leslie and Sharon Chapman. She had two older sisters, Rebecca and Allison. Jessica was described as a tomboy who loved the outdoors, an active child who enjoyed sports and was a devoted fan of Manchester United. Both girls shared a love for the football club and its star player David Beckham. They were known for being responsible and dependable. On a Sunday afternoon in early August of 2002, Jessica went to Holly's house for a family barbecue. Another friend, Natalie Parr, was also present. Natalie left earlier in the evening. Holly and Jessica changed into matching Manchester United t-shirts and black shorts. Just before dinner, around 5 in the afternoon, Holly's mother took a picture of them. After dinner, the girls played games in Holly's room before deciding to walk to a nearby vending machine at the local sports center for sweets. They left around 6:15 in the evening without telling anyone. Around 8 in the evening, Nicola Wells, Holly's mother, called the girls downstairs to say goodbye to the guests. Unable to find them, she searched the house, growing increasingly panicked. She told her husband, Kevin, that the girls were missing. Kevin and Nicola, along with their guests, searched the surrounding streets and alleyways but found no trace of the girls. Nicola initially remained calm, believing the girls were responsible and would return by their 8:30 curfew. When they didn't return, she contacted Jessica's mother, Sharon, around 8:45, hoping they were at the Chapman's house. This hope was dashed. Sharon and Leslie hadn't seen them. Both families joined the search, calling the girls names and knocking on neighbors' doors. Finding no sign of them, they called the police at 10 in the evening. A large-scale search was immediately launched. Search teams were organized and police visited the girls' friends, but no one had seen them. The next day, over 700 police officers and 500 volunteers joined the search. Operation Fincham was established with its base at Soham Village College. Fear permeated the town. Many people knew the girls and didn't believe they had run away. Cambridgeshire Police released a recent photo of the girls in their Manchester United shirts and described them physically. Police dive teams searched nearby bodies of water, while volunteers scoured the overgrown areas. A helicopter with thermal imaging equipment searched from above. Police even sought assistance from a nearby U.S. Air Force base for aerial support. Many clung to the hope that the girls were simply having fun and would return safely. The possibility of foul play became a growing concern, however, as the search continued. By the evening of Wednesday, August 7th, police had conducted 400 door-to-door interviews, stopped over 700 vehicles, and received over 2,500 phone calls. Despite the extensive search, there were still no leads. That evening, a candlelight vigil was held, with the community praying for the girls' safe return. On Thursday, August 8th, police held another press conference releasing CCTV footage showing the girls' movements that Sunday afternoon and a plea from their parents. This broadcast led to a flood of over 2,000 phone calls reporting sightings, many of which proved to be false leads. A man named Mark Tuck claimed to have seen the girls on Sand Street at 6:30 that evening. Karen Greenwood reported seeing them walking arm in arm 2 minutes later on College Road. Another woman claimed to have seen them walking past her house in nearby Little Thetford the next morning. Police realized many of these leads were inaccurate. They even appealed to the public to avoid wearing Manchester United t-shirts, believing this was contributing to the false reports. Investigators developed a profile of the abductor, a local, or someone familiar with the area, possibly with a history of sex offenses aged between 25 and 40. This broad description encompassed nearly 700 men in and around Soham. Another media appeal was made directly to the abductor, urging them to return the girls. The media's scrutiny of the investigation intensified as it appeared to reach a dead end. Unbeknownst to the public, investigators were already focusing on a suspect, Ian Huntley, the school caretaker, and his fiancée Maxine Carr. Their initial interest stemmed from the fact that the girls had stopped by their house to inquire about Maxine, making Ian the last person to see them before their disappearance. Their willingness to participate in media interviews and the search also raised suspicion. For 2 weeks, police visited Huntley's home under the guise of friendly inquiries. Officers noted oddities, clothes hanging on the washing line, despite the rainy weather, the immaculate state of the house, and a strong lemon scent. Huntley attributed the clean condition to recent flooding in the dining room. Officers also observed his agitation when discussing the girls. Their suspicions grew. Maxine Carr consistently repeated Ian's version of events, acting as his alibi throughout the early stages of the investigation. However, tips began surfacing about Maxine's lies regarding her whereabouts on August 4th. 2 days after the national news coverage, police received a call from Marion Clift, a neighbor of Maxine's mother in Grimsby, Lincolnshire. Marion claimed to have seen Ian and Maxine looking at something in their car trunk on Tuesday, August 6th. Ian appeared pale and shaky, abruptly closing the trunk when he noticed her. Other tips placed Maxine in Grimsby that Sunday, appearing intoxicated. Police kept this information confidential, hoping to trap the suspects. The circumstantial evidence against Ian and Maxine was mounting, prompting a closer examination of their backgrounds. Ian Huntley, born in late January of 1974, was a loner in school, often befriending younger girls. He had a history of violence against women, though charges were dropped in several instances due to insufficient evidence or the victim's refusal to press charges. Maxine Carr, born in mid-February of 1977, was an outcast in school, struggling academically and later developing eating disorders. She aspired to be a teacher and had worked at various jobs before meeting Ian. Colleagues noted her ambition to become a teacher. Ian and Maxine met in a nightclub in early 1999 and quickly became involved. Within a month, Maxine moved in with Ian. They were reportedly eager to start a family and became engaged in mid-1999. However, Ian's violent tendencies continued. Maxine consistently provided alibis for him, and charges were dropped in at least one assault case due to insufficient evidence. To the outside world, they appeared happy, yet their relationship was turbulent, marked by fights and Maxine's frequent returns to her mother's house. By 2001, they decided to start over in Soham, Cambridgeshire. Ian secured a job as caretaker at Soham Village College, using the alias Ian Nixon to conceal his past. He obtained the caretaker's cottage next to the school. In early 2002, he helped Maxine get a part-time volunteer position as a teaching assistant at St. Andrew's Primary School, where she lied about her qualifications. Investigators were aware of Ian and Maxine's troubled past and volatile relationship. Their recklessness and Ian's history of violence against women were significant concerns. The evidence was circumstantial, but suspicions were high. The most promising clue was Jessica's cell phone records, which last placed her near Ian and Maxine's residence. This wasn't definitive, as the girls could have been abducted after speaking with Ian. To generate suspicion within the community, police held a town meeting at the College Hall on August 15, 2002. They presented the details of their investigation, including the suspect profile and the possibility the abductor lived in Soham. They encouraged residents to observe their neighbors carefully. On August 16th, investigators revisited Ian and Maxine. They lacked sufficient evidence for arrest, but wanted to question them again, hoping to elicit a confession. They were interviewed separately for 7 hours in locations outside Soham. Maxine was questioned about the tips placing her in Grimsby on August 4th. She denied these claims and maintained her story. Ian also stuck to his story, evading leading questions. After the interviews, Ian provided fingerprints and a DNA sample. Ian and Maxine were released around 9:30 that evening. Police arranged for them to stay at a local motel, claiming a thorough house search was standard procedure. The room was bugged, but the couple revealed nothing incriminating. Meanwhile, investigators searched Ian's home at 5 College Close. The house was remarkably clean. They discovered Ian's keys to the school grounds and found a bin bag in a school storage locker that Ian claimed he didn't have the key to. Inside, they found the charred remains of 2 Manchester United t-shirts. The girl's fate was sealed. At 4:30 a.m. on August 17, 2002, gamekeeper Keith Pryor discovered the bodies of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman in a 5-foot-deep irrigation ditch near the perimeter fence of RAF Lakenheath Base, in Suffolk. He and his friend immediately contacted police. The bodies were badly burned and disfigured, located 10 miles from Soham. An autopsy suggested asphyxiation as the cause of death, with the bodies dumped to conceal the crime. The tissue samples estimated the time of death as approximately 2 weeks prior. Due to the burning, DNA was needed to confirm the identities. It was determined that the girls were killed elsewhere and then transported to the ditch. Services were held for the girls with widespread national mourning and support for the families. Holly Wells was buried in early September of 2002. Jessica Chapman was cremated the following day. With the bodies discovered, investigators focused on the physical evidence. Ian's fingerprints were on the bin bag. Fibers and DNA linked to his clothing and house carpeting were found on the items. Ian's car was searched. Though clean traces of mud, brick, dust, chalk, and concrete matched the area where the bodies were found. Investigators reconstructed the evening's events. After leaving the Wells home, the girls went to the sports center, then returned to Ian and Maxine's house, where they inquired about Maxine's job application. Ian lured them inside, and after they attempted to escape, he attacked and strangled them. He burned their clothing and disposed of the remains in the bin bag. He cleaned the house thoroughly and joined the search for the girls to avoid suspicion. Maxine maintained the pretense of assisting with the search for 2 weeks. The trial began in early November of 2003 at the Old Bailey. Ian was charged with 2 counts of murder, Maxine with 2 counts of assisting an offender, and 1 count of perverting the course of justice. Ian claimed the deaths were accidental. He alleged that while trying to help Holly with a nosebleed, he accidentally knocked her unconscious, and she drowned. He claimed Jessica screamed, and he accidentally suffocated her in a panic. He explained his failure to call for help by claiming he doubted police would believe him. Maxine testified she had tried to help Ian because she believed he was innocent. After a 6-week trial on December 17, 2003, Ian Huntley was found guilty and given 2 life sentences with a minimum of 40 years before parole. Maxine Carr was sentenced to 3 years for assisting an offender and perverting the course of justice, released after serving 24 months on probation in mid-2004. She changed her identity for safety. The house at 5 College Close was demolished in early 2003. The murders left a lasting sense of emptiness and a lingering question of what might have been. The story moves to Sycamore, Illinois on a Tuesday evening in early December of 1957. 7-year-old Maria Rudolph and 8-year-old Kathy Sigmund were playing in the first snowfall of winter, unaware of the danger nearby. A young man approached them, initiating a series of events that would forever change their lives and the lives of their families. Sycamore, Illinois is known for its annual Sycamore Pumpkin Festival, begun in 1962. It's a town known for its affordability and open spaces, generally considered safe, although crime did exist. The Sycamore of 1957 was quite different from today. Maria Elizabeth Rudolph was born in early March of 1950 to Michael and Frances Rudolph. She was the youngest of 4 children, with 2 older sisters and an older brother. She lived with her family in Sycamore. Her father worked in a factory, and her mother was a homemaker. Maria was a cheerful, well-behaved child who loved her family and friends. She attended Sunday school regularly and was in 2nd grade at West Elementary School in 1957. Her best friend was 8-year-old Kathy Sigmund, who lived nearby. They walked to and from school together and spent considerable time at each other's houses. Both girls were anticipating the upcoming holidays. On December 3, 1957, Maria and Kathy spent the afternoon making paper snowflakes at Maria's house. Around 5 in the afternoon, Kathy went home for dinner. After eating, Maria asked her parents to let her go outside to play in the snow. She called Kathy's house and invited Kathy to join her. The girls met near a large tree at the corner of Center Cross Street and Archie Place. They played a game of duck, the cars hiding behind the tree whenever headlights approached. A young man approached them and introduced himself as Johnny, claiming to be 24 years old and unmarried. He asked if they liked piggyback rides. Maria enthusiastically agreed. Kathy declined. Maria ran home to get a doll, leaving Kathy with Johnny. Kathy grew cold and went home to get her mittens, asking Maria to come along. Maria wanted to stay with Johnny, so Kathy returned home alone. When she returned, both Maria and Johnny had vanished. Kathy called for Maria but received no response. Unsure what to do, Kathy went to Maria's house and told her parents. Maria's brother Chuck and a friend Randy searched the neighborhood, calling Maria's name. Michael Rudolph accompanied Kathy back to her home. Frances immediately contacted the police. Michael, however, was initially hesitant, remembering a previous incident when Maria had wandered off and been found playing in a cemetery. Chuck found Maria's doll near a neighbor's garage. Knowing Maria loved her dolls and wouldn't leave without them, he realized something was seriously wrong. A search party of police officers and civilians was immediately organized. They searched the neighborhood, calling Maria's name. Hundreds of volunteers joined the search, with women helping to provide food and drinks for the searchers. Hours passed with no sign of Maria or Johnny. The police questioned Kathy, obtaining a description of Johnny: light-haired, early 20s, a gap in his teeth, tall, slender chin, and wearing a brightly colored sweater with green, blue, and yellow stripes. The next day, local newspapers reported Maria's disappearance, providing descriptions of both Maria and her alleged abductor. Maria's parents appealed to the kidnapper through media interviews, pleading for their daughter's return. The police continued their search, checking cars and cellars. Every house in town was searched, but there was no trace of Maria. The FBI joined the search after a few days, concerned Maria might have been taken out of state. The case became a national sensation, attracting the attention of FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover and President Dwight Eisenhower. Resources were poured into the search. Aircraft flew over the town, and even a lake was drained and explosives detonated at a quarry in a desperate attempt to find Maria, but all to no avail. Police began to suspect the perpetrator was not a local but an outsider. No ransom demands or communications were ever received, leading them to fear the worst. A week after Maria's disappearance, investigators instructed searchers to look for carrion birds, indicating a possible decomposing body. Kathy was placed in protective custody. Investigators received a new lead. Someone had suggested that a young man named Trashner fit the description. Records revealed no one with that name lived in the area, but a family with the surname Tessier did. FBI agents interviewed Ralph and Eileen Tessier, who confirmed that their eldest son John matched the description, but he had an alibi. He was in Rockford, 40 miles away, on the night of Maria's disappearance. Phone records indicated John had called his parents from Rockford, around 7 p.m. that evening. He explained he'd been in Chicago for medical examinations to enlist in the Air Force and had spent the day sightseeing before returning to Rockford by train. He corroborated his statements with officials from the Rockford recruiting station, who confirmed his presence there after 7 p.m. However, they noted he appeared disoriented, suggesting possible drug use. John Tessier passed a lie detector test. The FBI removed him from the suspect list. On December 11, 1957, John left Sycamore and began basic training at Lackland Air Force Base. The only lead seemed to have been a dead end, and the search for Maria continued through the holidays and into spring. The Rudolph family remained uncertain of ever finding Maria and her abductor. In late April of 1958, 5 months after Maria's disappearance, and over 100 miles away, a disturbing discovery was made. A couple mushroom hunting near Woodbine, Illinois, stumbled upon skeletal remains near a fallen tree. Initially believing it to be an animal, they realized it was a child's body. The remains were clothed in a shirt-undershirt and white socks. They immediately contacted authorities from a nearby farmhouse. Police assessed the state of decomposition, estimating the body had been there for months. Coroner James Furlong instructed crime scene technicians to photograph the general location, avoiding close-ups of the remains to prevent leaks to the press. Investigators suspected the identity of the remains. An examination confirmed it was Maria Rudolph through dental records, the shirt, and a hair sample. The rest of her clothing was never recovered. An autopsy couldn't definitively determine the cause of death, but it was ruled a homicide. With the body found in Illinois, the FBI withdrew from the case, leaving the investigation to state and local police. Maria Rudolph was laid to rest in late April at Elmwood Cemetery in Sycamore. Over 300 people attended her funeral. Her family and friends mourned the loss of a bright, fun-loving girl. The hymn "Jesus Loves Me," her favorite, was played during the service. Kathy Sigmund continued to live under protective custody. She was known as the girl who was last seen with Maria, a label that made it difficult for her to make new friends. The tragedy irrevocably changed the lives of everyone involved. The large tree where Maria and Kathy had played was cut down a year later. The investigation continued but eventually grew cold. With no new leads and their primary suspect eliminated, the case remained open but unsolved, relegated to the status of a cold case. Other more recent cases took precedence, and Maria's murder became a haunting memory for those left behind. 4 decades passed before a new lead emerged. In 1997, Sycamore Police Lieutenant Patrick Soler proposed a new suspect, William Henry Redmond, a former truck driver and carnival worker. Redmond had died in 1992, but Soler believed he fit the profile based on his criminal history and accounts from fellow inmates, suggesting he'd committed a similar crime. Soler admitted this was merely circumstantial, and his report was criticized for a lack of substantial evidence. The case was closed but not solved. Kathy Sigmund Chapman, throughout her life, never forgot that night. She suffered from survivor's guilt, eventually moving away from Sycamore with her husband Mark Chapman. They raised their 3 children in Texas and Florida. The memory never faded, leaving her to wonder if Johnny was still out there. They moved back to Illinois by the mid-2000s. Maria's disappearance and murder became known as Sycamore's 9/11, a watershed moment that forever altered the town. Decades later, a pivotal clue emerged, reigniting the investigation. In 2008, 51 years after Maria's disappearance, new information was presented to investigators, unexpectedly shifting the direction of the cold case. Janet Tessier, John Tessier's half-sister, sent an email to the Sycamore police tip line, implicating her half-brother in Maria's abduction and murder. In the email, Jeanette described her mother Eileen's deathbed confession in early 1994, just before Eileen passed away. Jeanette had tried contacting authorities numerous times over the next 14 years, before finally getting the attention of detectives Larry Cott and Brian Hanley. They decided to reopen the case. Jeanette's email revealed that John had changed his name to Jack Daniel McCullough in 1994 in honor of their mother. Investigators began to examine Jack McCullough, discovering that he had indeed changed his name. This led them to initiate their own investigation into his life. Jack McCullough, born John Cherry in late November of 1939 in Belfast, Northern Ireland, was the son of Samuel Cherry, a British sergeant, and Eileen Cherry. His father was killed early in World War II. Eileen later met and married Ralph Tessier, serving with the U.S. Army Air Force. John had lived in London with his grandparents during the war before moving to Sycamore, Illinois at the age of 7 with Eileen and Ralph. The Tessier family lived about 2 blocks from the Rudolph family. John was allegedly his mother's favorite and often got away with misbehavior. He was expelled from school in 10th grade after assaulting a teacher and using offensive language. His mother allegedly overlooked the incident. At the time of Maria's disappearance, 18-year-old John was still living with his parents and planned to enlist in the Air Force. The new claims prompted investigators to delve deeper into John Tessier's past. They interviewed his half-sisters Catherine and Janine, who recalled hearing their mother speaking to police on the night Maria disappeared. Eileen allegedly lied about John's whereabouts. More explosive allegations were to follow. John had reportedly harassed Janine. He developed a negative reputation in the neighborhood. A witness, Pamela Long, recounted how her father intervened when John refused to let her down after a piggyback ride. After joining the Air Force, John became estranged from his family and refused to allow them to attend his mother's funeral. He served 13 years in the U.S. military, retiring as a captain. He moved to Seattle and graduated from the police academy in mid-1974, joining the Lacey Police Department before transferring to the Milton Police Department. His misconduct led to conflict with the police chief and allegations from several women who claimed harassment. The final incident involved Michelle Weinman, 15 years old, in 1982. Weinman, a runaway, had been given accommodation by John. She accused him of inappropriate behavior, leading to a felony charge that was reduced to a misdemeanor. He pleaded guilty to communicating with a minor for immoral purposes, received probation, and was dismissed from the police force in early 1982. On April 27, 1994, John formally changed his name to Jack McCullough. He worked as an amateur photographer until 2001. The only evidence supporting John's alibi was the phone call from Rockford on December 3, 1957, but this evidence was about to be challenged. Investigators contacted John's former girlfriend Jen Swafford, who provided a contemporary photograph of John, and unknowingly, a crucial piece of evidence, an unused military train ticket from Rockford to Chicago. This suggested John might have driven his own car to Chicago, contradicting his claim of taking the train. This raised questions about his whereabouts on December 3, 1957. Witnesses had stated they hadn't seen Maria and Kathy playing after 6:20 p.m. This included a bus driver who said he hadn't seen them around 6:30 p.m., and another witness who placed John's Pontiac in Sycamore that evening and stated John never let anyone else drive his car. The statements from the Air Force recruiters placed John in Rockford around 7 p.m. Given the distances, it was possible for him to be in Sycamore that evening. One recruiter noted a cut lip on John on December 4, 1957. John allegedly commented that it was fortunate he hadn't been in Sycamore the previous night. This statement, along with the other witness accounts, had been part of the original investigation but was now being re-evaluated. Investigators theorized that the original timeline was inaccurate. Considering the new timeline and evidence, investigators proposed a new theory. John drove to Sycamore, abducted Maria around 6:20 p.m., and returned to Rockford to make the call to his family. A statement from John's half-sister Catherine supported this revised timeline. She recalled seeing the police search begin around 7 p.m., an hour earlier than previously believed. Investigators presented Kathy Sigmund Chapman with several photographs, including the one from John's former girlfriend. Kathy unequivocally identified John Tessier as the man she remembered as Johnny. This identification was significant, given her previous struggles with accurately identifying suspects. On June 29, 2011, 71-year-old Jack McCullough, John Tessier, was arrested in Seattle and interrogated. Given his law enforcement background, he was questioned by experienced interviewers. He vehemently denied any involvement in Maria's abduction and murder, expressing sympathy for the Rudolph family and emphasizing the impact of the crime on Sycamore. When asked about his inappropriate behavior with his half-sister, he denied it, calling it youthful horseplay. As questioning continued, he became evasive and refused to answer further questions. He was arrested for the kidnapping and murder of Maria Rudolph and extradited to Illinois. The Rudolph family finally had a named suspect. On July 27, 2011, Jack McCullough appeared in court. That same day, Maria's body was exhumed. A forensic anthropologist determined Maria had been stabbed at least 3 times in the throat. This suggested a more violent crime than initially assumed, given the state of decomposition. The arrest garnered national attention. DeKalb County State's Attorney Clay Campbell was pressured by both the Rudolph and Tessier families to proceed with the case. Despite concerns about the case's age and lack of physical evidence directly linking Jack to the crime, he agreed to proceed. Jack McCullough was formally charged with Maria Rudolph's abduction and murder. In September of 2012, 73-year-old Jack McCullough went to trial. The prosecution argued Jack was attracted to Maria, suggesting an obsession. They couldn't prove assault but presented evidence suggesting she'd been stabbed. Witnesses testified about Jack's reputation and past misconduct. 3 former inmates offered conflicting testimony regarding the method of Maria's murder. Kathy Sigmund Chapman testified that Jack McCullough was the man she remembered as Johnny. The defense argued the case was reopened due to family pressure, stating there was no physical evidence, motive, or indication of Jack's guilt. They emphasized the possibility of flawed memories and inconsistent witness testimonies. After deliberation, the jury found Jack McCullough guilty of Maria Rudolph's abduction and murder. On September 14, 2012, he received a life sentence with the possibility of parole in 20 years. The Rudolph family felt a sense of relief, believing Maria's killer had finally been brought to justice. However, the case was far from over. On February 13, 2015, Jack appealed his conviction. The Illinois Appellate Court vacated his kidnapping conviction due to the statute of limitations but upheld the murder charge. They also ruled that the deathbed confession shouldn't have been admitted as evidence, but found the judge's decision didn't rely on it. In 2015, Jack filed a motion for a new trial. New State's Attorney Richard Schmack reopened the case, conducting a comprehensive review of the evidence, including subpoenaed phone records. At a court hearing in March of 2016, Schmack argued that the phone records, timeline's exclusion of original evidence, and weather conditions on December 3, 1957, didn't support Jack's presence in Sycamore. They also challenged the validity of the polygraph tests conducted on Jack. The court found Jack to be truthful regarding his involvement in Maria Rudolph's case in both the 1957 and 2011 polygraph tests. Judge William Brady vacated Jack's murder conviction on April 15, 2016, and ordered a new trial. Jack was released on bail. In early August of 2016, Judge Brady denied a motion for a special prosecutor. Charles Rudolph, Maria's brother, stated he wouldn't be appealing the ruling. On April 12, 2017, Jack McCullough was declared innocent. In early July of 2016, Jack's son-in-law filed a lawsuit against the Sycamore and Illinois State Police for refusing to comply with the Freedom of Information Act following Schmack's allegations of police misconduct. In early 2020, Jack received a $300,000 settlement from the city of Seattle. The case of Maria Rudolph remains closed and unsolved. An anonymous letter naming another suspect was received, but the name was never released by investigators. The narrative shifts to a quiet Tuesday evening in early December of 1932. World-famous aviator Charles Lindbergh and his wife Anne Morrow Lindbergh were at home in Hopewell, New Jersey, while their 20-month-old son Charles Lindbergh Jr. slept upstairs. The household staff had finished their work, and the baby's nurse checked on him, only to discover he was missing. The Lindbergh's firstborn had been abducted. Hopewell, New Jersey, a township dating back to the 1700s, is known for its relatively low crime rate. Yet, in 1932, it became the scene of a notorious crime. Charles Augustus Lindbergh, born in early February of 1902 in Detroit, Michigan, achieved immense fame as the first person to fly solo non-stop across the Atlantic Ocean in May of 1927. He dropped out of college to pursue flight training and worked as a barnstormer before serving in the U.S. Army Air Service. His transatlantic flight made him a global icon, catapulting him into the spotlight. On December 21, 1927, Lindbergh met Ann Spencer Morrow during a Goodwill tour in Mexico City. Born in mid-June of 1906, Anne was the daughter of Dwight Morrow, a partner at J.P. Morgan & Company, and Elizabeth Cutter Morrow. She too was an aviator and married Lindbergh in late May of 1929. Their first child, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., was born in mid-June of 1930. The media intensely covered baby Lindbergh's life, but the Lindberghs desired privacy and moved to a new isolated estate in Hopewell, New Jersey in 1932. Baby Lindbergh was a charming toddler with blonde, curly hair, blue eyes, and a dimple in his chin. On the night of March 1, 1932, Anne Lindbergh, their dog, the butler Septimus Banks, and Betty Gow, the baby's nurse, were at the Hopewell estate. Parts of the house were still under construction. The family usually spent weekends at the estate and weekdays at Anne's family home in Englewood, New Jersey. However, due to baby Lindbergh's cold, they extended their stay. Around 10 p.m., Betty asked Anne if she had the baby. Anne, emerging from a bath, said she didn't. Betty completed her chores and went upstairs to check on baby Lindbergh, as per his father's routine. Baby Lindbergh was placed in his crib by 8 p.m., and no one was allowed to enter the nursery until 10 p.m. Upon entering the nursery, Betty found baby Lindbergh missing. She rushed downstairs, alerting everyone. Initially, she suspected Lindbergh was playing a prank, as he was known for his practical jokes. However, this was no joke. Baby Lindbergh had been abducted. Lindbergh immediately called the New York State Police. Police arrived around 10:30 p.m. and began searching the area. Lindbergh found a ransom note near the nursery window addressed to him. About 70 feet from the house, a makeshift ladder was discovered, showing signs of use against the nursery window. Muddy footprints led away from the house. The nursery had been wiped clean of fingerprints. News of the abduction spread quickly, becoming a national sensation. Police immediately launched an investigation, suspecting an inside job due to the kidnapper's knowledge of the nursery's location and the baby's routine. The first ransom note demanded $50,000 in exchange for the baby's safe return and warned against contacting the police. Handwriting analysis suggested the writer was of German descent and had spent time in America. A unique symbol, 2 interlocking circles with a red dot and 3 punched holes, was at the bottom. On March 6, 1932, Lindbergh received a second ransom note, increasing the demand to $70,000. A conference was called, involving prosecuting officials, police, and government representatives to discuss the case. On March 8, a third note arrived, rejecting any intermediary chosen by the Lindberghs. Dr. John F. Condon, a retired school principal from the Bronx, New York, offered to act as an intermediary, proposing an additional $1,000. The kidnapper accepted. On March 10, 1932, Dr. Condon received $70,000. He began negotiations through newspaper columns using the code word JAFC. On March 12, Dr. Condon received a fifth note directing him to a location where he found a sixth note. This note led him to Woodlawn Cemetery, where he met an unidentified man known as Cemetery John. They discussed the ransom and an exchange of evidence. On March 16, Dr. Condon received a baby's sleeping suit, confirmed to be baby Lindbergh's by the family, and a seventh note. On March 29, baby Lindbergh's thumb guard was found near the estate entrance. On April 1, a 10th note arrived, demanding the money be ready. On April 2nd, an 11th note directed Dr. Condon to another location, where he found a 12th note. That evening, Dr. Condon met Cemetery John again, exchanging the ransom money for a receipt and a 13th note. The note instructed Dr. Condon to a location near Martha's Vineyard, Massachusetts. Lindbergh accompanied Dr. Condon but remained in the car. He recognized Cemetery John's voice. A search of Martha's Vineyard yielded nothing. On May 12, 1932, a truck driver, William Allen, accidentally discovered baby Lindbergh's body, partially buried and badly decomposed, about 4.5 miles from the Lindbergh home. The body showed signs of trauma to the skull. An autopsy indicated the child had been dead for approximately 2 months, suggesting he died on the day of the abduction. The Lindbergh family identified the remains, which were cremated on May 13th. This discovery was a significant setback for authorities and the Lindbergh family. The kidnapper had ultimately killed the child, despite the ransom payment. On May 26, 1932, the New Jersey State Police offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to a conviction. On June 10, 1932, Violet Sharp, a maid who worked for the Lindberghs, took her own life a day before she was scheduled for further questioning. Investigations determined she had no connection to the abduction. Despite this setback, the FBI remained determined to find the kidnapper. A significant portion of the ransom, money-marked bills, was less prevalent and provided a potential lead. In early 1934, the New York City Bureau sent a letter to all banks in the city, requesting vigilance for these specific bills. A pamphlet was also distributed widely. In the autumn of 1934, almost 2.5 years after the kidnapping, this strategy paid off. A teller at the Bronx Corn Exchange Bank noticed a marked gold certificate with a license plate number written in the margin. Suspicious, he contacted the police. The bill was traced to a gas station attendant who had received it from a man and noted the license plate number. The attendant recalled the man's comment about the rarity of the gold certificate and his unusual response. On September 18, 1934, the license plate was traced to Bruno Richard Hauptmann. Born in late November of 1899 in Kammern near Dresden, Germany, Hauptmann had immigrated to New York City in 1923. He worked as a carpenter and married Anna Schofler in 1925, becoming a father 8 years later. Hauptmann was under surveillance and attempted to flee but was apprehended after being blocked by a truck. In Hauptmann's garage, police discovered a gas can containing almost $15,000 in marked ransom bills. Dr. Condon's phone number was inscribed on a wall. A thorough search of his attic revealed a wooden plank remarkably similar to one used in the construction of the ladder used in the abduction. Forensic analysis determined that the plank from Hauptmann's attic was once part of the ladder. This provided strong evidence linking Hauptmann to the crime. Hauptmann was arrested and charged with baby Lindbergh's murder and kidnapping. Despite the overwhelming evidence, Hauptmann maintained his innocence. His wife Anna publicly defended him, emphasizing his character and asserting his inability to commit such a crime. The theory of an inside accomplice was dismissed due to lack of evidence. Hauptmann was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and extortion in 1936. Authorities offered to spare his life in exchange for naming any accomplices, but he refused steadfastly, claiming innocence. The jury found Hauptmann guilty, and he was executed in the electric chair at the New Jersey State Prison on April 3, 1936. His wife arranged a private memorial service, and his body was cremated. He died maintaining his innocence. In the following decades, alternative theories emerged. Some researchers explored the possibility that Lindbergh himself was involved, pointing to his missed speaking appointment, his initial reluctance to fully cooperate with the FBI, his use of unconventional methods to locate his son, including engaging a mobster, and his beliefs surrounding eugenics. This theory suggested Lindbergh might have orchestrated the kidnapping to remove a child he deemed physically inferior, especially with Anne pregnant with their second child. Violet Sharp was also implicated potentially as an accomplice to Lindbergh or Hauptmann. It remained uncertain whether Lindbergh intended his son's death. Another theory centered on Violet Sharp's potential involvement as Hauptmann's accomplice and lover. This theory posited she had provided inside information and aided in the kidnapping, potentially seeking financial gain. The child's death in this scenario might have been accidental. This theory questioned the assumption that Hauptmann acted alone. The Baby Lindbergh case was a complex and multifaceted investigation, raising lasting questions. Even though Hauptmann was convicted and executed, the recent findings and development in the case raise doubts and generate discussion that were not fully explored during the original investigation. The search for the truth and justice continues to this day. The story shifts to a frantic 911 call in the early hours of June 7, 2021. 52-year-old Alex Murdaugh, calling from his island estate about 65 miles from Charleston, South Carolina, reported that his wife and son had been shot and killed. The Murdaugh family was a prominent legal dynasty in South Carolina, with a history spanning over a century. Randolph Murdaugh, Sr., admitted to the South Carolina bar in 1910, established the family's legacy. He served as solicitor for the 14th Judicial Circuit for 20 years and formed the Murdaugh Law Firm in 1910. His sons Randolph Jr. and John followed in his footsteps, and the family's legal involvement continued through subsequent generations. Alex Murdaugh, born in late May of 1968, was a part of this legal legacy. Alex attended the University of South Carolina, graduating with a political science degree in 1990. He earned a law degree in 1994 and joined the family's law firm. He met Maggie Brandstetter while attending the University of South Carolina. They married in mid-August of 1993. Alex and Maggie had two sons, Paul, born in mid-April of 1999, and Buster, born in 1996. Paul attended Hampton High School and studied political science at the University of South Carolina. Buster remained largely out of the public eye after the tragic deaths of his brother and mother. On the evening of June 7, 2021, Alex waited anxiously for his wife Maggie, who often spent time with their dogs in the kennel before retiring for the night. Paul was tending to the garden after recent strong winds had damaged some of their plants. Alex's father was hospitalized, and his mother had late-stage Alzheimer's. He planned to check on his mother before settling in for the night. He texted Maggie, but received no response. Returning from his mother's house, he discovered Paul and Maggie were not inside the main residence. He assumed they were spending time together, but upon approaching their usual gathering spot, he made a horrific discovery. His wife and son had been brutally murdered. Alex's panicked 911 call relayed his horror and fear. Responding Officer David Owen arrived to find Alex distraught, recounting the gruesome scene, the blood, Paul's exposed organs, and the lack of life in his wife and son. Alex admitted to retrieving a firearm from inside the house and checking for pulses, limiting his physical contact with the bodies as much as possible. He called his brothers Randy and John and attempted to contact a close family friend. The officer questioned why Alex was outside so late. Alex explained his parents' illnesses and his responsibility to check on them. He also explained Paul's work in the garden, replanting sunflower seeds damaged by recent weather. He denied any issues with trespassers or neighbors, mentioning only his son Paul's involvement in a boating accident as a potential source of conflict. Paul Murdaugh's boating accident, occurring in late February of 2019 in Beaufort County, South Carolina, involved a crash that resulted in the death of 19-year-old Mallory Beach. Paul, driving the boat with 6 passengers, crashed into a bridge piling. Beach's body was recovered a week later. Paul was charged with 3 felonies related to the accident, but Mallory's death left the case unresolved, raising suspicions of a possible cover-up. The discovery of bullet shells at the Murdaugh home deepened the mystery. The casings raised questions about the nature of the murders and intruder or violence originating from within the family. The investigation was shrouded in secrecy. Another shocking development emerged. The South Carolina Law Enforcement Division reopened the investigation into the 2015 hit-and-run death of 19-year-old Stephen Smith. Alex Murdaugh had represented the family of the suspected driver in a wrongful death lawsuit filed by Smith's family in 2017, settling for $500,000 with no admission of fault. This raised questions about a potential connection between Smith's death and the Murdaugh murders. A further revelation involved a $3 million check made out to Alex Murdaugh, not the law firm, from a firm account, and deposited into his personal account. This led to his resignation from the law firm, launching an investigation into potential embezzlement. The revelation of the $3 million check and Alex Murdaugh's resignation from the law firm sent shockwaves through the community. The investigation into the missing funds broadened, exploring potential links to the murders of Paul and Maggie Murdaugh or other illegal activities. Search warrants were executed at the law firm and other Murdaugh properties. Family, friends, and associates were interviewed. Electronic devices and other evidence were forensically examined. This, along with the renewed investigation into Stephen Smith's death, painted a troubling picture of Alex Murdaugh's character. The distraught husband and father depicted in the 911 call was now revealed to be a fraud and potentially a murderer. A significant event occurred on September 4, 2021. Alex Murdaugh was shot while inspecting a flat tire on a rural road in South Carolina. Murdaugh claimed a passing vehicle opened fire, hitting him near the head. While initially appearing like a random, shooting inconsistencies emerged, leading investigators to suspect Murdaugh staged the incident to deflect attention from himself as a suspect in the murders. The case became a race against time. On September 6, 2021, reports revealed Alex Murdaugh had been forced to resign from his law firm following the discovery of the $3 million fraud. The check's deposit into his personal account raised serious suspicions. Murdaugh's lawyers released a statement on September 4, stating he was entering rehab and stepping away from his responsibilities due to regrettable decisions. Speculation focused on substance abuse or mental health issues. This statement came amid the murder investigation and financial misconduct allegations. The lawyers requested privacy but acknowledged his commitment to making amends. A stunning development unfolded on September 14, 2021. Alex Murdaugh pleaded guilty to charges related to the staged shooting incident. He confessed to orchestrating the plan with Curtis Edward Smith to collect a $10 to $12 million life insurance payout for his son Buster. Prosecutors revealed Murdaugh gave Smith a gun and detailed instructions. Smith admitted to shooting Murdaugh, though details remained unclear. This revelation added another layer of complexity to the already convoluted case. It was not simply a case of murders, financial crimes, and a planned self-inflicted injury complicated the investigation. The unfolding events intensified scrutiny of the Murdaugh family's prominence in South Carolina. The case encompassed murder, financial misconduct, and the misuse of power. On September 16, 2021, Alex Murdaugh's lawyers attributed his actions to mental health struggles and substance abuse. He was facing intense public scrutiny. The investigation delved into his past, exploring possible links between the murders and other events, including his alleged involvement in the death of Gloria Satterfield, a family housekeeper and nanny. Gloria Satterfield, a devoted employee of the Murdaugh family for over 2 decades, died in February of 2018 after a fall at the Murdaugh home. Initially ruled an accident, suspicions arose later. After the funeral, Alex Murdaugh introduced Gloria's sons to Corey Fleming, allegedly promising help in obtaining a settlement related to her death. However, the sons remained uninformed about the relationship between Fleming and Murdaugh and had not received any of the $2.8 million settlement agreed upon. Gloria Satterfield's sons accused the Murdaugh family of being responsible for her death to collect insurance funds. This accusation intensified scrutiny of the Murdaugh family's influence and connections within the community. The investigation continued to unravel, revealing a complex web of deceit and potentially criminal behavior. In early October of 2021, Alex Murdaugh was arrested on 2 counts of obtaining property by false pretenses, facing a maximum 10-year sentence. He was apprehended at a detox center in Orlando, Florida. The police were increasingly convinced that Murdaugh was involved in the murders of his wife and son. The possibility of a calculated move to gain sympathy and deflect attention from his financial crimes gained traction. The insurance payout and a history of shady dealings pointed towards Murdaugh as the potential mastermind. Police revisited Alex Murdaugh's statements from the day of the murders. Inconsistencies emerged, strengthening the case against him. A video capturing Alex and Paul planting trees hours before their deaths revealed Alex wearing a pale blue shirt, contradicting his claim to the police of wearing a crisp white shirt that night. The shirt discrepancy further implicated Murdaugh. The discovery of Maggie Murdaugh's wedding ring under the seat of her car by the estate's housekeeper the day after the murders added to the mounting evidence. The housekeeper reported that Maggie wasn't wearing her ring that night. The police believed this indicated marital problems. The leaked phone calls between Alex and his son Buster also further incriminated Alex, showing evidence that Alex had committed more than just fraud. The police believed that Alex had committed these murders to distract the police from a large financial fraud scheme at the firm. The evidence against Alex Murdaugh was mounting. He had lied about his shirt and his presence at the crime scene. The video contradicted his statement. He had also lied about the financial fraud at his firm, demonstrating his willingness to commit crimes. The police believed that the murders were a calculated distraction to cover up his embezzlement scheme from the firm. Alex was about to be exposed for failing to deposit $800,000 in legal fees into the firm's account. The firm had to repay the missing funds to its clients. This incident, along with other financial irregularities, painted a clear picture of Alex Murdaugh's fraudulent activities. The police believed this financial pressure may have been the motive for the murders of Paul and Maggie. The distraction of the murders allowed the fraud to remain hidden. The case continued to unfold, revealing increasingly complex details. The narrative was filled with twists and turns defying easy categorization. The sudden deaths of Paul and Maggie, the financial crimes, the intense scrutiny of the Murdaugh family, and Alex's own attempts to manipulate the narrative created a high-stakes drama. In May of 2022, Alex Murdaugh revealed that he owed Gloria Satterfield's sons a staggering $4.3 million, including legal fees. This revelation, along with the renewed investigation into her death, initially attributed to a fall, added another layer to the complex case. The suspicion of foul play in Satterfield's death increased further, implicating Alex Murdaugh in criminal behavior. In December of 2022, Alex Murdaugh was indicted on 9 counts of tax evasion, accused of defrauding individuals of $8.8 million. The cumulative evidence painted a portrait of a man deeply involved in a web of financial crimes and potential murder. This brought the accumulated weight of his actions into sharp focus. The homicide trial began in January of 2023, with Alex Murdaugh accused of murdering his wife and son. The prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including Alex's criminal history related to Stephen Smith, Gloria Satterfield, and his own financial crimes. The case seemed almost certain to result in a guilty verdict. Despite the evidence against him, Alex Murdaugh's actions and his demeanor continued to surprise even seasoned legal professionals. The man who had initially presented himself as a grieving husband and father was now revealed to be a calculated and ruthless criminal. The forensic analysis of gunshot residue (GSR) found on Alex's clothing matched the GSR on Paul and Maggie's bodies, indicating he fired the weapon used in their murders. Expert testimony about the firearm reinforced this evidence. The expert questioned whether the firearm had been fired and then hastily wrapped inside a jacket. The expert confirmed the possibility of such handling. The mounting evidence was overwhelming and pointed towards a deliberate act of violence, eliminating the possibility of accidental death. Following this evidence and other evidence presented by the prosecution, Alex Murdaugh was found guilty of murdering his wife and son. On March 2, 2023, the jury delivered its verdict. The revelation sent shockwaves through the community, leaving many questioning what else might be uncovered about this complex case. The sentencing followed quickly. Alex Murdaugh received 2 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole. He was held at the Kirkland Correctional Institution for 45 days, while authorities determined which maximum security prison would house him. The case left numerous questions unanswered. Why did Alex engage in such widespread financial crimes despite his privileged background? Was the murder of his wife and son solely for distraction to conceal his financial schemes and gain sympathy? Or was it also or primarily a calculated move to obtain insurance money? Even after the conviction, the intricate details of the case remained open for interpretation and debate. The case of Alex Murdaugh remains one of the most highly publicized true crime cases in recent history. It's a compelling narrative filled with deception, betrayal, and unexpected twists, showcasing the complexity of human nature and the intricate workings of justice. The investigation into the Murdaugh family's actions is far from over. Many believe that further revelations are yet to come. The narrative now turns to a different case, a story that began on a seemingly ordinary day. It's the story of the disappearance of 2 young girls, Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, in Soham, Cambridgeshire, England, in August of 2002. We've already covered the investigation that led to the conviction of Ian Huntley and the sentencing of Maxine Carr. However, there are still unanswered questions, details left unexplored, and a lingering sense of unease surrounding the case. This chapter will explore some of the lingering questions and controversies surrounding the Soham murders. The investigation into the disappearance of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman was one of the most high-profile and intensely scrutinized cases in British criminal history. The scale of the search effort, the media frenzy, and the subsequent trial captivated the nation and much of the world. Despite the convictions of Ian Huntley and Maxine Carr, certain aspects of the case remain controversial, fueling ongoing debate and discussion. One of the key areas of continued discussion involves the effectiveness of the initial police investigation. Some critics have argued that crucial early opportunities to apprehend Huntley were missed. The slow pace of initial progress, the initially low level of suspicion surrounding Huntley, and the delays in obtaining key evidence have led to claims of police incompetence or negligence. Others maintain that the police acted appropriately, given the information available to them at the time, and that while the investigation may have had flaws, it ultimately succeeded in identifying and bringing the perpetrator to justice. The role of Maxine Carr also continues to be a topic of debate. While her conviction for assisting an offender and perverting the course of justice is clear, the extent of her involvement in the murders is still questioned by some. The conflicting testimonies and the ambiguities surrounding her actions on the night of the disappearances and the following days have fueled speculation about the level of her complicity. The argument is whether she was simply a misguided accomplice or actively participated in the murders. Another point of controversy revolves around the psychological evaluations of Ian Huntley. His claims of mental instability and his shifting accounts of the events surrounding the murders were used by his defense team to challenge the prosecution's narrative. While the jury ultimately rejected these claims, questions regarding Huntley's mental state and its possible effect on his actions remain. There are many who believe that he suffered some degree of mental illness, and that this should have been considered further by the prosecution and the court. The media coverage of the Soham murders was extensive, intense, and often highly critical of the authorities and the ongoing investigations. While the media played an important role in keeping public pressure on the investigation and ensuring a degree of accountability, some criticism has focused on the possible undue influence of the media on the investigation and on the session, the potential impact of media speculation on the trial and on the fairness of the legal proceedings. Despite the convictions and the eventual conclusion of the legal processes, the case continues to have a profound impact on the community of Soham and the wider society in Britain. The murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman were a significant tragedy, leaving behind deep scars and the impact of the murders. The extensive police investigation and the media coverage continues to resonate in Soham. The lingering questions and controversies surrounding the case ensure that the Soham murders will continue to be studied, debated, and analyzed for many years to come. The emotional impact of the crime and the ongoing discussions of the investigation highlight the complex and lasting impact of such tragic events on communities and on wider societal understanding of criminal justice. Furthermore, there were unresolved questions about Ian Huntley's past. The numerous incidents involving violence against women, though resulting in dropped charges or non-prosecution, provide a chilling background to his actions in Soham. This also sparked discussions about gaps in the justice system, with criticism of how prior incidents weren't adequately addressed. These discussions also serve to highlight the difficulties of protecting children and the limitations of criminal justice responses to violent crimes. Finally, the case spurred discussion regarding the psychology of serial killers. The motives behind the murders and the specific actions of Huntley have been analyzed from various perspectives, providing insights into the mindset of a perpetrator, and also leading to greater societal awareness and understanding of their violence against women and children. The ongoing study of this case provides valuable insights into crime prevention and victim support. The narrative now shifts to another tragic case, the unsolved murder of baby Lindbergh. While the trial and execution of Bruno Hauptmann concluded the official legal proceedings, the case remains shrouded in mystery, prompting ongoing speculation and debate. This chapter explores some of the lingering questions and theories surrounding the Lindbergh kidnapping and murder. Despite the conviction of Bruno Hauptmann, the Lindbergh baby case remains one of the most famous and controversial unsolved mysteries in American history. The sheer scale of the crime, the intense media coverage, and the subsequent legal battle captivated the nation and continues to generate fascination and debate. While Hauptmann's execution brought a supposed conclusion to the legal proceedings, many questions about the case remain unanswered. The prosecution's case against Bruno Hauptmann largely hinged on circumstantial evidence. While the discovery of the ransom money in his possession was undeniably significant, it did not definitively prove his guilt. The lack of direct conclusive evidence linking Hauptmann to the crime scene itself has left many skeptical. The debate continues regarding whether he was the sole perpetrator, whether there was an inside accomplice, or whether the wrong man was convicted. The testimony of key witnesses, particularly Dr. John F. Condon, the intermediary who facilitated the ransom exchange, also raises questions. His ability to identify Hauptmann as Cemetery John has been challenged, highlighting the potential for eyewitness error or even deliberate misidentification. Furthermore, his actions and motivations in acting as the intermediary have been scrutinized and are still subject to debate and re-evaluation. The ransom note itself continues to be a point of fascination and discussion. While handwriting analysis suggested Hauptmann's authorship, the possibility that the note was forged or written by someone else remains. The unique symbol contained within the note and some aspects of the language and style have also intrigued experts, leading to further debate and the consideration of whether the note may have been written by someone else. The investigation's focus on Hauptmann might have overshadowed other potential suspects. This has led some to argue that the focus on Hauptmann diverted resources and attention from the exploration of other potential leads or possibilities. This has raised concerns about the thoroughness of the original investigation and the potential for overlooking crucial evidence. The possibility of an inside accomplice also remains a compelling theory. The level of detail about the nursery's layout and the child's routine suggests that the kidnapper likely had some prior familiarity with the Lindbergh household. This has led to persistent speculation that the crime might have involved a person who had direct knowledge of the Lindbergh's home and family. The sudden death of Violet Sharp, a domestic worker at the Lindbergh estate, remains mysterious and has sparked further conjecture. While officially ruled a suicide, the timing and the surrounding circumstances have led to many to suggest other possible explanations. This raises questions about possible connections between Sharp and the kidnapping and the possibility that the investigation might not have fully explored this potential link. In conclusion, while the Hauptmann conviction brought a temporary close to the Lindbergh kidnapping, the case persists as a compelling and unresolved enigma. The abundance of circumstantial evidence, the challenges to eyewitness testimony, the ongoing discussions surrounding the ransom note, the potential oversight of additional leads, and the lingering questions regarding the death of Violet Sharp all contribute to the enduring mystery. The case serves as a continuing reminder of the limitations of criminal investigations, the challenges of eyewitness testimony, and the potential for miscarriages of justice, even in high-profile cases. The ongoing interest in this case highlights the enduring human fascination with unsolved mysteries and the search for the truth. This chapter delves into the case of Jack McCullough, focusing on the complexities of the investigation, the challenges of using old evidence, and the implications of the eventual dismissal of charges. The story of Maria Rudolph's murder initially led to McCullough's conviction, but a subsequent review of evidence led to his exoneration, highlighting the intricacies and potential pitfalls of criminal investigations, particularly those involving decades-old evidence. The case against Jack McCullough relied heavily on witness testimony, particularly that of Kathy Sigmund Chapman, Maria Rudolph's childhood friend. Chapman's identification of McCullough as the man she remembered as Johnny was a cornerstone of the prosecution's case. However, the reliability of eyewitness testimony, particularly after the passage of many years, is frequently challenged in court cases. Memory is fallible, and the passage of time and external influences can affect the accuracy of recollection. Furthermore, the prosecution's case depended on reconstructing a timeline of events based on fragmented and potentially unreliable evidence. The phone records, witness statements, and other pieces of evidence used to build the timeline were gathered over many years and required interpretation, leading to potential inaccuracies or misinterpretations. The reliability of a timeline constructed on such evidence is naturally subject to scrutiny. The case also highlighted the challenges of using old evidence in a criminal trial. The investigation spanned decades, involving numerous police officers, investigators, and witnesses. The documentation and preservation of evidence can be imperfect, especially given the changes in investigative techniques and technology over the years. Gathering and verifying the accuracy and reliability of such old evidence is a considerable challenge for law enforcement and the prosecution. The prosecution's use of Eileen Tessier's deathbed confession also raised questions about the admissibility of hearsay evidence. While the statement carried emotional weight, its reliability as legal evidence was debatable, and this adds another layer of complexity to the case. The inclusion of such evidence in a trial could be challenged due to concerns about the chain of custody and the potential for inaccuracy or misrepresentation. The eventual dismissal of the charges against Jack McCullough underlines the importance of rigorous and thorough investigation. The appeals process and the subsequent review of evidence revealed flaws in the original investigation and the prosecution's presentation of the case. The exoneration is not just an example of justice being served, but also a critical reminder of the potential for mistakes in criminal justice systems. The McCullough case is a powerful illustration of the complexities and potential pitfalls of prolonged criminal investigations, particularly those involving decades-old crimes. The reliability of memory, the challenges of reconstructing events using fragmented evidence, and the complexities of dealing with old evidence all underscore the importance of cautious and comprehensive approach to criminal investigation, and the need to critically evaluate evidence. The case also prompts discussion about the balance between achieving justice and the potential for wrongful conviction. Furthermore, the case underscores the human cost of prolonged investigations both for the family of the victim and for the accused. Decades of uncertainty and the emotional toll of legal proceedings, along with the challenges of having a long-standing accusation hanging over them, can have a profound impact on both individuals and families. In conclusion, the case of Jack McCullough illustrates the inherent complexities of criminal investigations and the need for continual review and scrutiny of evidence. The ultimate exoneration of McCullough, though providing a measure of justice for him, leaves behind unresolved questions about the actual perpetrator of Maria Rudolph's murder and the broader challenges faced by law enforcement and the dumb press courts in tackling cold cases. It serves as a crucial case study for law enforcement and the legal profession. This chapter revisits the case of the Murdaugh murders, focusing on the trial, the evidence presented, and the resulting conviction of Alex Murdaugh. The details of the trial, the evidence used to secure a conviction, and the implications of the verdict offer a complex and layered understanding of the case, highlighting the challenges of prosecuting high-profile cases and the enduring impact of such crimes on families and communities. The trial of Alex Murdaugh for the murders of his wife Maggie and son Paul was one of the most highly anticipated and closely followed legal proceedings in recent American history. The intense media coverage, the compelling narrative, and the prominent status of the Murdaugh family in the South Carolina legal and political circles ensured that the trial captivated public attention across the country. The trial was complex, including testimony from numerous witnesses, extensive forensic evidence, and detailed examination of the Murdaugh family's history and relationships. A key piece of evidence presented by the prosecution was a video recorded on the night of the murders. The video showed Alex Murdaugh and Paul Murdaugh at the family's kennels just hours before the murders. This evidence directly contradicted Murdaugh's initial statements to police, where he claimed he had not been at the kennels that night. The video became a crucial element in the prosecution's case, proving Murdaugh's presence at the scene of the crime. The prosecution also presented detailed forensic evidence, including gunshot residue found on Alex Murdaugh's clothing and analysis of the murder weapons. Ballistics evidence, forensic analysis of the crime scene, and expert testimony on the patterns of gunshots were all presented. This forensic evidence provided substantial support for the prosecution's claim that Alex Murdaugh was the perpetrator. It helped create a strong link between Murdaugh and the firearms used. Furthermore, the trial explored Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes, which provided context and potential motive for the murders. The prosecution argued that Murdaugh's financial difficulties, his extensive debts, and his history of misappropriating funds from his law firm might have motivated him to kill his wife and son to divert attention away from his financial troubles. The details of his financial misconduct provided a context for understanding his potential motives and actions. The defense, however, attempted to create reasonable doubt by challenging the reliability of witness testimonies, raising concerns about the chain of custody of forensic evidence, and questioning the motives of various individuals. The defense's strategy focused on creating uncertainty regarding the evidence presented by the prosecution and attacking the credibility of witnesses and experts. Despite the defense's efforts, the jury ultimately found Alex Murdaugh guilty on all counts. The verdict marked the culmination of a long and complex investigation and trial. The conviction was a significant moment in South Carolina's legal history, underscoring the importance of holding individuals accountable, even those with considerable power and influence. The implications of the verdict extend beyond the specific case. It has sparked broader discussions about power, privilege, and accountability within the legal system. The Murdaugh case served as a stark reminder that even those in positions of authority are not immune to justice, and that the pursuit of justice can and should override considerations of influence or status. Moreover, the Murdaugh trial highlights the lasting impact of violent crime on families and communities. The murders of Maggie and Paul Murdaugh devastated the family and had a widespread impact on their community. The trial itself served as a form of public reckoning, forcing a confrontation with the consequences of violence and the disruption it causes within families and communities. In conclusion, the Murdaugh murder trial was a landmark event in the American legal landscape. The trial itself, the evidence presented, and the verdict underscore the complexity of criminal justice and its potential to deliver justice even in the face of substantial obstacles and challenges. The case will undoubtedly continue to be studied and debated for years to come. The complexity of the case, the significant media attention it received, and the lasting impact on families and communities makes it a critical case study for legal scholars, law enforcement professionals, and anyone interested in the American justice system. This chapter explores the complexities of the investigation into the disappearance of Maria Rudolph, focusing on the challenges faced by law enforcement, the evolution of investigative techniques over time, and the enduring impact of this unsolved case. The case of Maria Rudolph's disappearance and presumed murder highlights the difficulties of solving cold cases, the limitations of investigative technology and techniques in the mid-20th century, and the enduring emotional toll on the families involved. The initial investigation into Maria Rudolph's disappearance in 1957 faced significant limitations due to the technology and investigative techniques available at that time. The lack of sophisticated forensic tools, the absence of widespread DNA analysis, and the reliance on witness testimony and circumstantial evidence severely hampered the investigation. These limitations often made it difficult to gather crucial evidence that would be readily available in modern-day investigations. The passage of time further complicated the investigation. Memories fade, witnesses relocate or pass away, and physical evidence deteriorates or is lost or misplaced. These factors create substantial challenges for any investigation, especially those involving crimes that occurred several decades prior. The lack of comprehensive case file management and archiving practices in the mid-20th century added to these challenges. The investigation also highlighted the limitations of eyewitness testimony. Kathy Sigmund Chapman's account was crucial to the prosecution's case, but the accuracy of her recollections after so many years is naturally subject to debate and re-evaluation. Eyewitness identification has long been acknowledged as a fallible component of criminal investigations. Furthermore, the initial investigative efforts might have been hampered by the lack of widespread coordination and communication between different agencies and jurisdictions. Given the initial belief that the perpetrator might not be local, this lack of interagency cooperation and communication across jurisdictions could have limited the effectiveness of the investigation. In modern investigations, this is rarely an issue due to widespread communication networks and improved data sharing practices. Over the years, investigative techniques have evolved dramatically. The advent of DNA analysis, advanced forensic tools, and improved methods of witness interviews significantly enhanced the ability to solve crimes. These advancements would have likely changed the outcome of the Rudolph case had they been available at the time. Modern investigative tools and techniques could have provided insights not available in 1957. The case underscores the human cost of unsolved crimes. The Rudolph family's enduring search for answers and justice profoundly impacted them. The uncertainty and lack of closure created an emotional burden that lasted for generations. The case highlights the significance of providing support to families affected by unsolved crimes. The Rudolph case remains unsolved despite numerous leads and investigations. It serves as a stark reminder that even with dedicated efforts and the passage of time, some crimes may remain a mystery. The continued investigation efforts into the case demonstrate the perseverance of law enforcement in pursuit of justice, and also highlights the need to constantly develop and refine investigative techniques. The case of Maria Rudolph's disappearance and presumed murder stands as a testament to the complexity of cold cases, the limitations of mid-20th century investigative tools, and the lasting impact on those affected. It serves as a reminder of the importance of continuing to pursue justice even decades after a crime has been committed, and the need to utilize and improve investigative practices to increase the likelihood of solving even decades-old cases. It's a case that continues to challenge and inspire those involved in criminal investigations. This chapter focuses on the case of the disappearance of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman, examining the impact of the crime on the community of Soham, the lasting effects on the families of the victims, and the broader societal implications of the case. The Soham murders remain a significant event in British history, highlighting the devastating effects of violent crime on small communities, and prompting ongoing discussions about child safety, media coverage of criminal investigations, and the psychological impacts on victims' families. The murders of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman had a profound and lasting impact on the small community of Soham, Cambridgeshire. The idyllic nature of the town, its close-knit community, and the ages of the victims combined to create a sense of shock and devastation that resonated throughout the country. The disappearance and subsequent discovery of the girls' bodies shattered the community's sense of safety and security. It transformed Soham from a peaceful and quiet village to a place forever marked by tragedy. The extensive media coverage of the case further amplified the sense of trauma within the community. The intense national and international media attention brought unwanted scrutiny to Soham, creating a climate of fear and suspicion. The constant media presence and intrusive reporting added to the community's distress and difficulty in recovering from the tragedy. It made it difficult for residents to process their grief and begin to heal in the aftermath of the events. The families of Holly Wells and Jessica Chapman were left devastated by the loss of their daughters. The murders brought profound grief, suffering, and long-term psychological trauma. The intense media attention, The long and arduous legal processes and the constant reminders of the tragedy added to the family's suffering. The impact of losing a child in such horrific circumstances is immeasurable, and the Soham murders highlighted the long-term and profound emotional toll on the victims' families. The case also sparked broader societal discussions about child safety and protection. The murders prompted renewed calls for improved child protection measures and heightened awareness of the dangers that children might face. The case itself led to national debates concerning the adequacy of existing safety measures and led to an increased focus on child protection strategies within the UK. Furthermore, the Soham murders led to renewed discussions concerning the role of the media in reporting criminal investigations. While the media played a crucial role in maintaining public awareness and raising the profile of the search for the missing girls, concerns were raised about the potential for intrusive reporting, sensationalism, and the possible disruption of the ongoing police investigation. This fueled national debates regarding ethical journalism and responsible reporting of sensitive criminal cases. The Soham murders remain a significant event in British history, impacting not just the town of Soham but the entire nation. The enduring psychological impact on the community, the victims' families, and the wider public remains significant. The tragedy prompted changes in crime reporting, child protection measures, and national discussion about community safety, all of which stemmed directly from the events in Soham in August of 2002. The lingering impact underscores the importance of ongoing support for victims of crime and continued efforts to prevent future tragedies. The case also fueled discussions about the handling of high-profile criminal cases and the importance of balancing the public's right to information with the need to ensure the integrity of the legal processes. The Soham murders remain a case study for criminologists, psychologists, and legal scholars, generating ongoing debate and discussion about the psychological impacts of violent crime, the effectiveness of investigative strategies, and the roles of the media and the legal system in criminal justice. This chapter delves into the complexities of the Lindbergh kidnapping case, exploring the investigation's challenges and the use of forensic science, and the lasting impact of the crime on American society. The Lindbergh kidnapping and murder, despite the conviction of Bruno Hauptmann, remains a case study in forensic science, investigative techniques, and the lasting impact of high-profile crimes on the public consciousness. The Lindbergh kidnapping and murder presented unprecedented challenges for law enforcement in 1932. The sheer notoriety of the case, the intense media scrutiny, and the lack of advanced forensic technology available at the time created a complex investigative landscape. The investigation had to navigate the intense public interest and pressure, while simultaneously piecing together a complex puzzle based on limited resources. One of the most significant aspects of the investigation was the use of forensic science. While forensic science was in its early stages in 1932, the investigators utilized available techniques, including handwriting analysis of the ransom notes, forensic examination of the latter found at the crime scene, and tracing the marked bills from the ransom money. These techniques, while rudimentary by today's standards, provided crucial evidence in the case and served as a major step forward in the development of forensic science. The case served as a catalyst for improvements in forensic investigation and technology. The investigation also revealed the complexities of eyewitness identification. Dr. John F. Condon's identification of Bruno Hauptmann as the man who exchanged the ransom money was a crucial element of the prosecution's case. However, eyewitness testimony, even from credible witnesses, can be unreliable and influenced by various factors. This aspect of the case served to highlight the limitations and potential fallibility of eyewitness identification in criminal investigations. The marked ransom money played a pivotal role in leading investigators to Bruno Hauptmann. The meticulous tracing of the bills, coupled with their discovery in Hauptmann's possession, provided a powerful piece of evidence against him. The use of this type of financial tracing demonstrates the ingenuity of investigators and the potential for unconventional methods to successfully solve complex criminal cases. The intense media coverage of the Lindbergh kidnapping dramatically shaped the investigation and the subsequent trial. The constant public attention placed immense pressure on law enforcement, and the media's reporting might have influenced both the investigative process and the public's perception of the case. The case serves as an example of the complex relationship between law enforcement, the media, and the public in high-profile criminal investigations. The Lindbergh kidnapping case was more than a crime. It was a cultural phenomenon that profoundly impacted American society. The abduction and murder of the Lindbergh baby shocked the nation and sparked widespread fear and anxiety, shaping public attitudes towards child safety and crime for generations to come. The case also significantly increased public awareness of the importance of forensic science and its potential role in solving crimes. The Lindbergh kidnapping case remains a compelling and complex case study in criminal investigation, the development of forensic science, and the lasting impact of crime on the public psyche. The challenges faced by investigators in 1932, the use of both conventional and unconventional investigative methods, the reliability of eyewitness testimony, and the influence of the media, all contributed to the case's lasting legacy. The case continues to intrigue and fascinate experts and the public alike. It's a testament to the enduring power of true crime narratives and the complex interplay of factors that shape the course of criminal investigations and trials. This chapter examines the case of the Murdaugh murders, focusing on the role of the media, the impact of social media, and the challenges faced by law enforcement in managing the public narrative surrounding the case. The Murdaugh murders became a media sensation, highlighting the complex relationship between law enforcement, the media, and the public, and the challenges of controlling the narrative in the digital age. The Murdaugh murders captivated national attention from the outset, generating intense media scrutiny and speculation. The prominent status of the Murdaugh family in South Carolina's legal and political circles, the gruesome nature of the crime, and the subsequent unfolding of Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes created a perfect storm for widespread media interest. The case quickly became a national and even international news story. The sheer volume of media coverage presented both opportunities and challenges for law enforcement. The media's role in disseminating information to the public was essential, but the constant speculation, rumor-mongering, and potential for biased reporting created difficulties for investigators. The need to balance the public's right to information with the need to protect the integrity of the investigation proved challenging for law enforcement. Social media played a significant role in shaping public perception of the case. The rapid spread of information, opinions, and speculation across various online platforms amplified the media frenzy and presented additional hurdles for law enforcement. Controlling the narrative and combating misinformation in the digital age proved a formidable task, and managing the flow of information and public perception required strategies beyond those employed in previous pre-digital cases. Law enforcement faced the challenge of managing conflicting narratives. The initial portrayal of Alex Murdaugh as a grieving husband and father contrasted sharply with the emerging picture of a man involved in extensive financial fraud and potentially implicated in multiple deaths. This inconsistency added to the complexity of the case and made it difficult to control public perception. The intense media coverage created pressure on law enforcement to provide frequent updates and maintain transparency. However, the need to balance transparency with the preservation of the integrity of the investigation required careful management of information released to the public. Balancing these two essential aspects of the case proved to be very difficult for law enforcement. The media's role in uncovering information and holding powerful individuals accountable was apparent in the Murdaugh case. Investigative journalism played a significant role in uncovering Alex Murdaugh's financial crimes and other suspicious activities. The media's role in pushing for answers and holding authorities accountable proved crucial in maintaining public interest and pressure. The Murdaugh murders underscore the complexities of managing public perception in the digital age. The case serves as a powerful example of the challenges that law enforcement faces in navigating the complex relationship between media coverage, social media, and the pursuit of justice in high-profile cases. The case will undoubtedly influence law enforcement strategies for managing public narratives surrounding major criminal investigations. In conclusion, the media's impact on the Murdaugh case highlights the essential role of media transparency, the challenges of misinformation in the digital age, and the need for law enforcement to develop effective strategies for managing public perception in high-profile investigations. The Murdaugh case offers a valuable case study for understanding the complexities of media relations in criminal justice. The case illustrates the importance of thoughtful and ethical media coverage, the challenges of misinformation control, and the ongoing need for law enforcement agencies to adapt to the ever-evolving media landscape. This chapter explores the lasting impact of the baby Lindbergh kidnapping on American culture and society. The crime transcended a simple act of violence, shaping public attitudes towards crime, child safety, and the role of the media in shaping public perception. The Lindbergh kidnapping's enduring influence on American culture and society demonstrates the lasting power of high-profile crimes to affect public attitudes and behavior. The Lindbergh kidnapping profoundly impacted American attitudes towards crime and safety. The crime, occurring in a time of relative prosperity and perceived safety, shattered the nation's sense of security and innocence. It instilled a widespread fear and anxiety, especially among parents, prompting a heightened awareness of the potential for violence and the vulnerability of children. The case led to significant changes in parenting practices, with an increased focus on child safety measures and heightened vigilance. The media's extensive and often sensationalized coverage of the Lindbergh kidnapping shaped public perception and fueled anxieties about crime. The intensity of the reporting, the speculation, and the dissemination of often inaccurate information created a climate of fear and uncertainty. The case underscored the media's power in shaping public opinion and the potential consequences of biased or irresponsible reporting. The case continues to be a cautionary tale regarding the ethical considerations in crime reporting. The Lindbergh kidnapping's impact extended to the legal system. The case spurred advancements in forensic science and investigative techniques. The use of handwriting analysis, ballistics, and the tracing of the ransom money demonstrated the potential of scientific methods in solving crimes. The case influenced the development of new investigative techniques and contributed to a growing reliance on forensic evidence in criminal proceedings. The case also highlighted the importance of interagency cooperation in high-profile investigations. The Lindbergh kidnapping continues to fascinate and inspire. It serves as a persistent case study for law enforcement training, criminal justice courses, and true crime enthusiasts. The crime's enduring power stems from the combination of a shocking crime, the prominence of the victims, the intense media attention, and the lasting cultural impact. The case is widely used in criminal justice education to illustrate the evolving techniques used in criminal investigations, including the importance of forensic analysis, the challenges of eyewitness testimony, and the role of media coverage in shaping public perceptions. The case also influenced literature, films, and other forms of popular culture. Numerous books, articles, and documentaries have explored the Lindbergh kidnapping, perpetuating its place in the public consciousness. The enduring interest in the case reflects a lasting fascination with the mystery surrounding the crime, the powerful personalities involved, and the wider cultural significance of the events. The story continues to be retold, analyzed, and interpreted, demonstrating its enduring relevance and its continued impact on various areas of American culture. The Lindbergh kidnapping serves as a reminder of the lasting societal impact of high-profile crimes, the crime's enduring influence on parenting practices, the media's role in shaping public perception, the advancement of forensic science, and its ongoing presence in popular culture and academic discussion illustrates the powerful and lasting effects of violent crimes on society and culture. The case will continue to be relevant and discussed for many years to come. The complexity of the case, the ongoing speculation, and the enduring interest in the crime ensures that the Lindbergh kidnapping will remain a major topic in criminal justice studies, media analysis, and cultural examinations of crime. This chapter explores the complexities of the investigation into the disappearance of Maria Rudolph, focusing on the challenges of piecing together a timeline of events based on fragmented and often conflicting evidence, the difficulties of Rudolph, identifying a suspect after several decades, and the enduring impact of this unsolved case on the community of Sycamore, Illinois. The case highlights the difficulties of solving cold cases, the limitations of investigative techniques available at the time of the crime, and the importance of preserving evidence. The investigation into Maria Rudolph's disappearance and death was hampered from the outset by the lack of clear and consistent evidence. The passage of time, the lack of sophisticated forensic tools in 1957, and the reliance on often unreliable eyewitness testimony created a challenging investigative landscape. The primary eyewitness, Kathy Sigmund, provided a description of the suspect, but this description proved insufficient to identify a definite suspect, as similar descriptions could apply to many individuals. The lack of physical evidence at the crime scene also significantly limited the initial investigative efforts. The creation of a reliable timeline of events also proved problematic. Witness accounts varied, and memories often proved unreliable after the passage of time. The reconstruction of the sequence of events leading up to Maria's disappearance and the attempt to place the suspect at the scene of the crime proved to be very challenging. The investigation was also hindered by the lack of advanced forensic techniques available in 1957. The absence of DNA analysis and other modern forensic tools significantly limited the ability to analyze the physical evidence found in connection with the case. Had modern forensic techniques been available, the outcome of the investigation might have been very different. The identification of potential suspects also proved exceptionally difficult. While several individuals were investigated as potential suspects, none could be definitively linked to the crime. The initial focus on John Tessier, who later changed his name to Jack McCullough, highlights the problems of identifying a suspect based on circumstances